Hey guys, Krill here. Welcome back to part 2 of my Mistweaver monk tips and tricks. But before we pick up where we left off in the last video, I wanted to include a tip that some of you left in the comment. So here we go, bonus tip. Let's get started. Okay, so the bonus tip is actually very simple, yet a very effective one, and it consists on stacking up your blackout kicks, the stacks of Teaching of the Ancient Monastery, before entering your GG window. The reason is your passive right here, Teaching of the Monastery, that says Tiger Palm causes your next blackout kick to strike an additional time, stacking up to 4 times. Blackout kick has a 20% chance to refresh the remaining cooldown on Rising Sun kick. And now this effect of your passive, paired with the description of GG, that says that your blackout kick, rising kick, or spinning clean kick healing can kicks up Gust of Mist, healing up to 2 allies for 90k or something. It means that the more stacks you have of blackout kicks, the more blackout kicks you throw out, the more healing you get off of it, obviously. And also the reducing cast time on your enveloping mist is going to proc faster. Meaning, basically, that if before entering your GG window, you already have your 4 stacks of blackout kick, as soon as you enter the window, you get the shields from GG. And then additionally, you get the Gust of Mist from your blackout kick, which is a ton of healing. And then, on top of that, you can insta-cast your enveloping. So it basically looks something like this. You know that your damaging event is coming. You stack up your 4 stacks of Teaching of the Ancient Monastery. Then you pop your GG, and boom, you have your healing with Gust of Mist, and then you can insta-cast your enveloping mist and get the enveloping breath. Okay, for tip number 9, we have a very needed understand the importance and the value of your Thunder Focus Tea. So let's read the skill for a second. Thunder Focus Tea says, receive a jolt of energy empowering your next spell cast, giving you options for Enveloping Mist, which gives a buff to your immediate cast, your immediate heals on the cast. Renewing Mist, basically it increases the duration of the healing over time. Vivify, that costs you no mana, pretty useless given how mana efficient this class is. Rising Sun Kick, which reduces its cooldown by 9 seconds. And then finally we have Expel R. Before going on with the discussion on Thunder Focus Tea, it's important to note the existence of this talent right here, that is Secret Infusion. It is a 2-rank, 2-level basically talent that says, after using Thunder Focus Tea, your next spell gives 8% of a stat for 10 seconds, where Enveloping Mist gives you Critical Strike, Renewing Mist gives you Haste, Vivify gives you Mastery, and then Rising Sun Kick and Expel Harm give you Versatility. So, why is Thunder Focus Tea so powerful? For a bunch of different reasons. First of all, when you're running Master of Harmony, there is this talent right here that says casting Thunder Focus Tea increases your next Crackling Jade Light damage by 800%, and it causes the chain to 4 additional enemies. This is, when playing Master of Harmony, the main source of your damage, and also a very powerful mini cooldown to heal your teammate when you're fighting more than 4 enemies, 4 or more enemies. So that is one of the reasons. The other reasons is that through these talent Jade Fire teachings, after casting your Jade Fire Stomp, so after casting this skill right here, but also after casting your Thunder Focus Tea, Ancient Teachings transfers an additional 160% damage to healing. Meaning that in all the situations in which you cannot stay on your Jade Fire Stomp because of Swirlies, because of mechanics, because of your tank moving the boss or the packs or whatever, you can access the benefit of turning part of your damage into healing through your Thunder Focus Tea. Very powerful. And then obviously the effects coming from the skill itself. We mentioned earlier that it might be helpful for you to cast Insta Enveloping Mist on your teammates, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 if combined with GG, that allows you, after casting Blackout Kick, to cast a quicker rather Enveloping Mist up to an instant Enveloping Mist. We discussed how it can be used in combination with Expel Arm to create sort of a shield, a rather big shield on yourself to survive big hits in case you might need one. And then finally, I think it's important to mention how helpful it can be for you to precast your Thunder Focus Tea, given a certain situation, to stack up your charges on your Crackling Jade Lightning. What does it mean, stacking the charges? Well, whenever you cast your Thunder Focus Tea, you still have access to the effect of the skill itself. So for instance, casting your Enveloping Mist, see, and immediate an instant cast of your Enveloping Mist. But also it will give you a stack of an empowered crackling jade lightning. And these can be stacked up to 2. So you can store 2 in form of a stack and then have your 2 charges of your Thunder Focus Tea, resulting basically in you being able to cast your crackling jade lightning 4 times in a row. So you cast it once, you cast it twice, then you cast your Thunder Focus Tea and you can cast it another 2 times. But as you can see, the pack is already dead. The pack is already dead. The situations in which you're going to cast 4 of them is basically super remote. It almost never happens. But the situation in which you cast 2 of them, or in which you take advantage of a downtime, maybe in an RP, or maybe in situations where you know you won't have access to your, you won't have a use for your empowered crackling jade lightning, may be very helpful. So for instance, say you're doing a boss fight, and this boss fight will require the usage of your Thunder Focus Tea, for instance, as I mentioned earlier, to have an insta-cast of your Enveloping Mist, right? Then, since it's only a single target, you most likely won't be using your charge of Empowered Crackling Jade Lightning, but you still have it here stored, maybe for the first pull after the boss. That's very important too. All right, let's move on to tip number 10, which is do not hold your Life Cocoon forever. All right, Life Cocoon is basically our only real external, and it reads, encases the target in a cocoon of chi energy for 12 seconds, absorbing 3 million damage and increasing all heal over time received by 50%, applying Renewing Mist and Enveloping Mist to the target. There is a lot to unpack here, so let's just move on and be careful with what we do. Okay, so your Life Cocoon creates a shield that is going to absorb about 3 million damage on a target. But it doesn't only do that. Basically, it says that when you cast it, it casts a Renewing Mist and Enveloping Mist on the target, and additionally, the HOTS are going to heal for 50% more on this target, on the target of Life Cocoon, which can mean a lot of different things. Say in a situation where, I don't know, say a person is targeted by a cast, and that damaging event is involving only that player, you can cast your Life Cocoon on that player and just forget about it, because the healing over time of your Renewing Mist plus the Zen Pulse plus whatever other HOT might be on at the moment will just be enough to heal back. At the same time though, having casted a Life Cocoon on someone, it also means that they're going to have Renewing Mist and so Chi Harmony and Enveloping Mist on that character, meaning that slamming a Vivify, an insta Vivify maybe, so an empowered Vivify, on someone that has an Enveloping Mist and a Renewing Mist running is going to mean that you're going to be able to top someone in basically just a click, right? So what happens is that you cast your Life Cocoon, then say you have your Captain Garrick here that is taking a lot of damage, you cast your Life Cocoon on him, you slam a Vivify, and then it's going to be probably topped or very close to, and you can just forget about the card. One other thing that is important to notice, though, to Life Cocoon, is that in some cases, it might be extremely helpful to precast Life Cocoon. What do I mean by that? All the smart healing that we have coming from our maintenance rotation and GG is going to be divided equally between the party members, all right? So you have five characters, including yourself. All of them are taking damage because in AoE damage or whatever. That healing that you do through your maintenance rotation is gonna be split evenly among all of us, all of you. So by precasting a Chi Cocoon on someone, it means that the damaging event will tick off of its absorb shield and not from its life, meaning that your healing is going to be divided between 4 characters and not 5, which means that each one of the other 4 characters will take an increased, like a 25% increase healing, just because the target that is being targeted by Life Cocoon didn't actually really lose any of its health. Right? So that is a very important information for you to understand, especially when you feel like your GG is struggling to keep your teammates alive. So what you can do is that, say you have all your party members and all of them, they have the Renewing Mist on, right? And you have the damaging event incoming, you have your GG up and running, you can just slam the Life Cocoon on a character, so the total healing will be split among 4 of them, because the damaging event will tick off from the shield of the player instead of its health, and the game will register as this character doesn't actually need healing, and so it will split the healing among the other 4 players. Additionally, it's very important to notice that this target is almost mandatory. You need to have your Calming Coalescence to have your Life Cocoon much more effective. And additionally, by playing your Conduit of the Celestial, you have access to basically a way to reduce the cooldown of your Life Cocoon. Through this talent right here, consuming 20 stacks of Shale and Gift calls upon Yulon decreases the cooldown time of Renew and Mist, Rising Kick, Life Cocoon, and Thunder Focus Tea by 75% for 8 seconds. Basically, it translates on a faster Life Cocoon. It's not something that you can count on reliably and say, oh, my Life Cocoon is going to be only 45 seconds. It's not that strict, but still is going to be impacted by your hero talent. All right, for tip 11, I would like to discuss the brand new cooldown that we got through the hero talent Conduit of the Celestial, which is Celestial Conduit. Now, what Celestial Conduit does is, let's read it, the August Celestials empower you, causing you to radiate 4.2 million healing onto up to 5 injured allies and 800,000 and something natural damage onto enemies within 20 yards over 3.3 seconds, split evenly among them. Healing and damage increased by 6% per target, up to 30%. So, there also is another extra 3 lines that needs to be read, which are, you may move while channeling, but casting other healing or damaging spells cancel this effect. Alright, so the skill basically looks like this. It radiates healing, radiates damage, right, and heals your target and deals target, and then it summons the Celestial, right? It's a pretty straightforward skill. So the reason why I want to spend a bit of time talking about this skill is sometimes this skill might not be enough, especially if you have a couple of deaths in your party or a single death in your party, whatever, and you cannot leverage the full 30% increase coming from the number of targets, all right? So one of the things that I started doing recently is in the last boss of Siege of Borealis, I sort of precast Conduit of the Celestials like half a second before the 2 dots come up in order to be already sort of like healing and sort of heal through the first tick of the dot for me to have time to think which of the 2 characters is best for me to dispel. And one of the good things about Conduit of the Celestial Conduit is that I can cast it, and then I can cast my dispel during the cast of it, because it's not a heal, it's not a damage, and it doesn't interrupt the cast of my Celestial Conduit. So I'm going to show you in a second, and it basically goes like this. You have a target, right? You're radiating, and you can press your detox and keep on radiating healing. That is most likely going to keep them alive, and also it allows me to choose and pick the best target for me to say I have a rogue and I have a warrior, then my thought is going to be, does the rogue have access to cloak? If it does, I'm going to dispel the warrior. But while I'm thinking, I'm trying to decide which is the best target to dispel, having the heal coming from the Celestial Conduit is actually very helpful. So understanding the Celestial Conduit doesn't lock you in that skill only, it's very important. What's also important though, is understanding that sometimes Celestial Conduit might not be enough, or rather, you might want to have an extra tick of healing before the natural occurring one. Say you have 3.3 seconds and it radiates damage and healing at regular intervals, right? And you see that your party is not gonna leave till your next pulse of healing. What can you do? Well, the first answer is in the hero talent on its own that says, in this talent right here, that says Unity Within, Celestial Conduit can be recast once during its duration to call upon all of the August Celestial to assist you at 200% effectiveness. Unity Within is automatically cast when Celestial Conduit ends, if not used before its expiration, which means that you can cast your Celestial Conduit, you see that the healing is not enough, you recast it, and you have an extra pulse of healing that usually helps surviving whatever tick is threatening your party. That is especially helpful in all those situations where you maybe didn't make the best decision and you're late on your healing or your ramp or whatever it is, and you want to access some burst healing. You cast your Celestial Conduit, you recast it for Unity Within, and in very extreme cases, you can just slam a Vivify. By slamming the Vivify, you will interrupt so you won't access the remaining part of the pulsating AoE, but you will increase your burst healing even more. And in some cases, that might really be life-saving. Right? Say, for instance, again, second boss of Dawnbreaker, you're healing through the pulsating AoE, you notice that one of your team members is critical and close to be dead, and the next pulse of the AoE will kill him. Then you can slam a Vivify, burst heal the guy. Sure, you will sacrifice a bit of the pulsating healing of your Celestial Conduit, but everyone survives. So that is, basically, it means that this cooldown is very flexible, and you have to be ready for the situations in which Celestial Conduit is just not going to be enough, all right? It's not one of those cooldowns that just allows you to stop thinking about whatever damaging event is occurring and preparing for the next one. It doesn't work like that, and there are situations in which you must be ready to cast something additional to cover for the weak points. Okay, for tip 12, we have understand the importance and the value of Tiger Lust and your GG, especially the part related to the movement impairing. So let's read the two skills. Tiger's Lust says, increases a friendly target movement speed by 70% for 6 seconds and removes all the roots and snares. So this is a crazy good skill, but you have to be careful with this. This doesn't prevent the player to be slowed or rooted. So it has to be casted after getting rooted, okay? And even after, say I get rooted, I cast it on myself, it will remove the root. But if I walk on another trap or whatever, I'm gonna get rooted again. So it doesn't prevent me to get rooted or snare. The other important one instead is GG. GG says, GG's presence makes you immune to movement impairing effects, which is the opposite of what I just said for Tiger Slash. It means that as long as your GG is running, if something is trying to impair your movement, it just won't work, which is particularly important for those situations in which a damaging event is linked to a rooting or a snaring event, such as the last boss of City of Threats. If, when it comes to the snaring, the rooting effect of the boss, you have your GG running, first of all, you won't be slowed, and in second instance, you won't get the damage coming from the right? So that is very important. Know the difference between the two. Okay, for tip 13, we have understand when to run Peer into Peace and when to run Pool of Mist. So Peer into Peace basically says that 5% of your overhealing is distributed. 5% of your overhealing through Soothing Mist is redistributed across your 4 team members. And additionally, the most important part is that the Soothing Mist channel will follow the target of your Vivify, which basically means if I talent into Peer into Peace, I start casting Soothing Mist, channeling Soothing Mist on myself, on this character, on this target right here. I spam my Vivify and I decide to spam Vivify on myself. It will change the target of your Soothing Mist automatically without having to recast Soothing Mist. Basically, it means you can switch from one target to another immediately without having to. It's a very powerful skill that allows you to, say, focus healing a couple of targets very efficient, but it comes at a great sacrifice because the alternative, the other talent right here, Pool of Mist, it's a very powerful one, and it says Renewing Mist now has 3 charges and reduces the remaining cooldown of Rising Kick by 1 second. Rising Sun Kick now reduces the remaining cooldown of Renewing Mist by 1 second. Basically, it creates a cycle in which casting Renewing Mist reduces the cooldown of your Rising Sun Kick, and casting Rising Sun Kick reduces the cooldown of Renewing Mist, which basically translates into, and it gives you access to an extra charge of all in, which basically means that you're going to be casting a lot more Renewing Mist, and it's going to be much easier for you to keep your Renewing Mist up on all your party members at all times, which is why, despite Peer into Peace being such an effective talent, most of the players will just run a Pool of Mist, which is my preferred choice. But there are a few situations in which running your Peer into Peace can actually help you quite a lot. First of all, in lower keys. So lower keys, when you don't need to have a custom tailored build around your Vivifies or Enveloping Mist or whatever to make full usage of your peer-into-piece talent. In situation where that sort of build is not necessary, you can just have a normal build and talent into peer-into-piece. So it's just one piece of a completely different build, but given that the amount of damage that each character receives is not that high, that single piece is going to be enough to cover for specific situations. Say, again, the first trash pack of Dawnbreaker, when two different characters are targeted at the same time, or again, last boss of Siege of Brawls, where two players are targeted. So those are the use cases, in my opinion, where you want to run the talent. The other main use case is if you decide to run a casting Mistweaver build, such as this one, which is basically completely based around you casting, around you channeling Soothing Mist and casting Enveloping Mist, Renewing Mist. So in those situations, I would suggest running Pure. In any other situation, the positive feedback loop that you get off of your pool of mist is just too important and too good for you to see. Great. Now for tip 14, we have something that's not necessarily only related to Mistweaver, but it is managing healing yourself as a healer in a Mythic Plus environment. So I'm going to start with Conduit of the Celestial, because when I run Conduit of the Celestial, I also run this talent right here that says Healing Elixir. You consume a Healing Elixir when you drop below 40% health or generate excess healing elixirs, instantly healing you for 15% of your maximum health. You generate one Healing Elixir every 30 seconds. Now, if you were to check your overall healing at the end of the dungeon running this talent, you would notice that Healing Elixir is not necessarily that high, so it doesn't contribute that much to the overall. What it does, though, is that in situations where you drop below 40%, to be a bit careful, like limiting, obviously, but in those situations, this skill will be triggered automatically, and when it will heal you 15% of your maximum health without you spending any GCD. So if you remember in the beginning of the video, I mentioned something about Expel Arm, it being a beautiful skill to heal yourself, especially when paired with Renew and Mist, but it's also a skill that requires a GCD. So there are going to be situations in which being able, through this skill right here, or other means that we're going to be discussing in a second, you can spare a GCD from healing yourself, and that GCD is going to make a whole world of this, right? So usually this skill is overlooked, and I don't think that it makes or breaks it. But understanding and knowing that you have that and tracking the amount of stacks that you have of the skill is going to make quite a bit of difference in your planning how you are going to be using your cooldown. Say you don't know if you're going to be living or not, but you know that you still have 2 charges of your healing elixir, then you're most likely going to be able to live, and you don't need to spend the GCD on Expel Harm or Vivify yourself and slam and insta Vivify on yourself, which is a very valuable tool, right? So that's a good thing to know. The other thing, obviously, that you can do and you should be doing at all times is carrying your healing potion. Now, this is a brain dead tip. I understand that. Everyone knows that. But if you were to spend enough time going through the logs of you and your team, you would see how many times people just refuse to use their healing potion or the Warlock Candy. So this is the instance where I remind you, use your goddamn healing potion, because that GCD, eventually you'll hit a point where that GCD is gonna make a ton of difference. So just have it there. If all your party members cast and rather use their healing potion at the same time, it would equal basically to, I don't know, a healer casting a whole full blown cooldown on any healing event. Do you understand how potent that is? So there is that. And here we go. We finally got to the last tip of the video, which is obviously the most important for me. If you like this video and if you enjoyed your time here, it would be very helpful for you to subscribe to this channel and maybe get more videos and content. I hope you had a little bit of fun and you found out something new about this beautiful. I'll see you the next time. Have fun, boys. Krills out.